Hey, glad you checked out this episode. By the end, you will learn that traditional media and social media are actually same but different. But more importantly, you will learn how to come up with better social media strategies or digital strategies. So let's make sense of digital and content marketing.
Ready to level up your content marketing strategies? This is Level Up Content Play with Rio Leong.
So let's start off with what exactly is media. Media is simply a platform that allows one party to transmit messages to another. And when it comes to mass media, it simply means that you want to transmit the information to a lot of people, the masses. So in the past, let's say the king wants to communicate to his people, right? They will make use of a town square to make the announcement, and they will gather the villagers or the people to this town square before somebody make the official announcement, the decree of the king to the people. All right, so in the past, the town square serves a purpose of a media platform. But with the advent of mass media like TV or radio, you can now transmit info from one source to many at different locations. So the effectiveness and the efficiency of communicating to the masses has improved tremendously. And therefore, mass media was a breakthrough in terms of mass communications. And that's why we call it mass media, because it can reach a lot of people effectively. Traditional marketers have made use of media platforms to push out their messages to their markets, to convince them to buy their products. And it is very effective and efficient because they can reach all these people easily using just one source and the mass media platform. But it is very important to remember that the concept of media, for it to work, requires them to be able to gather people to the media platform in the first place. Just like the town square, people must come to the town square first before the announcement can be made. Similarly, for mass media to work, people must come to the mass media platform first before marketers can use it to transmit their messages to the market. So how do media attract audiences to their platform? Well, they use content. And there are broadly three different types of content that can be used to achieve this purpose. The first type is informative content, and the example would be news, where I provide you with the updates of the latest happenings. The second type of content would be educational content, where examples would include documentaries. You tell people how things are made or some history lessons. And the third type of content would be entertainment content. And this is the type of content that a lot of us are most familiar with. It includes dramas, comedies, and it is the most attractive because most people would want to come to media platforms in order to be entertained. The least attractive obviously would be the news, unless of course there is a situation or something big happening like the current COVID-19. Everybody will be interested and would want to find out the latest updates on the situation. So whenever there is a disaster or whether there is a huge happening, news content would become very attractive. Otherwise, in the normal circumstance, entertainment content will always be the most attractive. Now, marketers transmit messages using the media platforms via a few methods. The first method obviously is through advertisements. They pay money to insert advertisements or infomercials to transmit their messages. And these advertisements are separate from the content that is being produced by the media platforms themselves. The media will offer content to attract the audience and then insert advertisements from the advertisers in order to help the brands transmit their messages. Advertisements and content are separate. But as time goes by, obviously people realize that, hey, when people come to the media platform, they actually come here for the content and not for the advertisements, right? So with that, marketers begin to think of ways like incidental exposures or product placements. What that means is when you are watching a drama, for example, and you happen to see a can of Coke on the table, all right, this is an incidental exposure or a product placement that is paid for by the brand itself. Product placements can also include interaction. In other words, you might see the character actually drinking a can of Coke. That would be product placements. But brands are obviously not easily satisfied. They want to go even further. So after product placements, they look for product integration. For example, the can of Coke is now an integral part of the story. It can be such that the character loves Coke and the Coke means something special to this particular character. So now you have integrated the brand into the story itself. Apart from that, obviously, is to go even further and do product endorsements in a show. This can be such that the character or the host can say very positive things about the product. Say, oh, I love Coke and this Coke tastes great, all right? And that would be product endorsements. And finally, it would be to use celebrities to endorse the product and say that I am a famous celebrity and I only drink Coke. So these are the ways that marketers progressively tries to get their brand images or the brand messages into the content that is being offered by the media platforms. So what about social media? Are they any different? Well, they also transmit messages to many because many are using social media nowadays. They use content as well to attract audiences to their platform. What type of content? Well, first type would be informative. For example, somebody might post, I ate the best prata at this location. It's informative, right? The second type of content would be educational. How do I put on makeup for this particular occasion, for example? And the third type of content would be entertainment. For example, hey, watch my crazy dance move, or hey, this is my oh my god moments, OMG moments, and it's very entertaining for other people to watch, right? So obviously it is quite similar to the traditional media, right? And marketers transmit messages via advertisements as well. There are display ads that you can use, or there are sponsored posts that you can actually create your own posts and advertise it in the feed as well. What about endorsements? Definitely, because a lot of brands are also beginning to use influencers, right? They want to get influencers to create content for the brand themselves. So you see that, hey, actually social media and traditional media are actually quite the same. But now we come to the key differences, and it is very important for you to understand the differences. First of all, it is not fixed programming. For a TV channel, for example, you will know exactly that, hey, 5 o'clock is this program, 6 o'clock is the next program, 7 o'clock is the next program, and so on. It's a fixed programming, and everybody watches the same program. That is for traditional media. For social media, however, it is different because the platform itself will use different algorithm in order to serve different content to different people. So it becomes very good and powerful because they can attract audiences to the platform, and they know exactly that the content that they're going to see is the type of content that they like and they want to see. At the same time, you also have a lot of data to ensure that the brand can reach the right type of audience. This is customization at its best, because now the social media platforms are able to customize the content to the audience, as well as customize the type of audience to the brands. The second difference that we want to take note of is that each post that you see on social media is actually like a mini program. Social media works nowadays in the form of feeds. For example, you have a Facebook feed, or you have an Instagram feed, or even YouTube can offer you a lot of upcoming content or upcoming videos that you can watch. They essentially feed the audience with new content as they continue to consume. So think of it as this particular feed is the channel that you watch on traditional TV, for example, where you have one program after another after another. But in this particular case, for social media, each post is a mini program. So from the traditional media where one program can be half hour or even 1 hour long, you now have programs on social media that is essentially just a few seconds long, because each post is consumed within seconds or at most a couple of minutes. All right, so that is a very important difference for you to remember. Thirdly, is to remember that on social media platforms, the users themselves are content creators. So you need to understand that even if you were to use influencers, they are first of all content creators rather than just a celebrity spokesperson. And I'll go into it further in a separate video, so look out for that one. And finally, brands can also create content on social media. In other words, you are no longer reliant on the media platform like the TV channels to aggregate content or to produce dramas and provide news and so on to attract audiences. As a brand, you can also create content on social media now. So you can now use social media for content marketing, because now brands can create content themselves and use it for marketing purposes. That would be the key differences.
The key takeaways.
So just like how you used to choose the different TV channels or choose the different radio stations to advertise in, you now should also choose the correct social media platform. How do you do that? Simply by looking at where your audience or your intended target audience is consuming content on. If they are consuming content on Facebook, good, use Facebook. If they are using Instagram, then use Instagram. Look at all the different social media platforms and their audience consumption habits and the type of audience that they are engaging or aggregating to the platform, and you will know how to choose the right tools to use. Secondly, brands creating content must understand the concept of first attracting the audience to the platform. You must know that you are not producing advertisements per se. You must not put too much emphasis on the selling part, because always remember, audience come to social media platforms or any media platforms for that matter in order to get information or be educated or to be entertained. So if you are too heavy on your selling messages all the time, it will put off the audience on social media. You need to look at the genre that you can produce, right? We talked about 3 broad types: informative, maybe your sales, your product launches and so on; educational, how can your product help to solve problems, how to use your products to beautify their homes; and most important, entertainment. Can you entertain the audience using your brand? Can your brand be part of an entertainment content? All right. So in terms of the 3 different types, obviously you would want to produce the entertainment type more, maybe in a scale like 60% of your content. 30% could be on educational content, how-tos, how to use your product and so on. And only 10% is on informative content like a sale going on or a latest launch. All right. However, this formula is not cast in stone, because just like how in the real TV world, producers are now beginning to produce a lot of integrated new type of genres. For example, they have genres called the info educational content. It is informational, but at the same time it is educational as well. Or it can be infotainment content, where you are talking about your product, right? But it is also entertaining at the same time. So there are all these sort of new genres or new mix that producers are beginning to get very creative and no longer aligning themselves to boxes, so to speak. So you can also look at such strategies and come up with content that essentially are mostly educational or mostly entertaining rather, and at the same time be educational or informative at the same time. Thirdly, all users are potential creatives or content creators. Influencers to employees to customers, all of them have the power now, as long as they have a mobile phone, they have the power to create content on social media. So understanding this becomes very important because you are no longer the only one that can produce content, and you would want to help or facilitate all these different people to create content for your brand. So you can have your fans or your best customers post testimonials about your product. That would be excellent content, right? But you want to facilitate them by, for example, providing them with pictures, providing them with stock photos or stock videos about your brands that they can use in order to create content. So what do you think? Is traditional media and social media same but different? Let me know your comments and give me some feedback, and also tell me what other areas you would like me to cover or what areas you want me to go deeper in depth in. As usual, remember to subscribe and turn on the notification so that you will know when is the next episode coming out. See ya!